Welcome to our weekly Wednesday webinar. I'm really glad you're here today. We are going to be talking about understanding protected income. I'm Kathy, and I am the founder and president of Thea Financial. And I'm just so passionate about the work that we do, about really helping our clients have a fantastic and secure retirement. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to pull up my slides, my presentation, so you can take notes, because I think you're going to find this to be really, really fun today. All right. I hope you can still see me okay. Okay, and I'm going to pull my notes up so that I don't just talk from memory, although I know this like the back of my hands. So what is protected income and why is it important? So that is really the topic of our conversation today. And let me just get my notes here so I can see it. So what we're going to be talking about today is the idea of this transition that you make when you move into retirement. And today, my goal is to really give you some solid education on how to assemble, how to put together a retirement income strategy that you can count on, that's comfortable, and that you understand the nuances of it. Because in the conversations that I have with clients, it's so frequent that most of this has never been brought up to them, and they had no idea how to do this. It's kind of like driving through fog, right? You kind of know your way, but you're not really sure. So understanding protected income is our subject today. There's a difference between protected income and probable income. Okay, there's a big difference. Now, wouldn't you say that one of the important things about thinking about transitioning into a retirement is knowing what your monthly income is going to be? I'll bet if I asked you to raise your hand, we'd all say the same thing. That is absolutely necessary. There's no way I'm going to go into retirement if I don't really know what my income is going to look like. So when we're talking about that, what we're really saying is this. All right, today, before I retire, I go to work. I know my job. I show up every day. I apply myself. I do a great job. And for that, I get this paycheck. And this paycheck, after I make my retirement contributions and pay my taxes and any health insurance costs that I have to pay, then I have a paycheck. Now that paycheck gets deposited into my checking account. So the net paycheck is what I'm living on. Now, hopefully you're living on that and you're comfortable with that, right? The money coming in, you know what needs to go out, and you have arranged your life and your expenses so that that matches. So if I asked you, Kathy, what do you have coming in on a monthly basis? And you said, well, I make X amount, but what I'm actually living on is, say you get $3,300 every other week. So $6,600 is what's actually coming in. Okay. It doesn't seem to matter what you make, because a lot of times, you're putting a pretty good chunk of your earnings into, or your salary into saving for retirement. So at the end of the day, what you're saying is that I am living on $6,600 a month, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the number is. Okay. You just need to know what that number needs to be. Now, the really bizarre thing is to think about moving into retirement and not knowing what that number is going to be. That is a very unsettling way to think about moving into retirement, right? So post-retirement, what changes is you're not going to work anymore, probably, unless you're doing something from home, which is like very cool, but you're not going into work. So the routine of life has changed. You're not getting a paycheck anymore. So now you're spending your savings. That is a very huge, a very big transition. Okay. That's a huge transition. And if you're going to go into retirement and you don't know how you're going to recreate your paycheck, it is really hard to retire under those circumstances. So what's going to happen is you're going to be creating this new financial picture. There's like a line in the sand. This is a very big concept that I want to share with you. Your distribution strategy that you're going to be using to fund your retirement is very different than your accumulation strategy. What we just talked about, your accumulation strategy, if the market was up or down, I mean, you still got your paycheck, right? So it affected you indirectly. When you are distributing and you're not getting a paycheck anymore and the market is up or down, it affects you directly. It directly affects not only your ability to take an income, but it affects your peace of mind. It affects about how you feel about retirement. It affects how you feel about spending money. Okay. It has a great deal to do with satisfaction. So what we're talking about today is how to transition from this accumulation phase into a distribution phase. Okay. An accomplished woman, you know how I talk about this all the time. And what I think of as an accomplished woman. What I think of as an accomplished woman is the person that would never wing it. You're not going to retire and just go into retirement and not have all these questions answered. You've not lived your life that way. And you're certainly not about to start now doing it that way, right? Just hoping for the best, and you don't really know, and you're placing blind faith in someone, an advisor that gives you some platitude statements, and you're just hoping that they know what they're doing and that they're going to make sure that you're okay. And I don't know about you. Maybe it's because I'm a business owner and an entrepreneur and a person that really has taken charge of my own life and with our family. I'm not interested in hoping that things work out. Okay. I want to know that when I retire, I can travel, and I want to know what my healthcare is going to look like and what it's going to cost me. And I want to understand how taxes work on income. And I want to know that if things go sideways in a big way in the market, that I'm not going to run out of money. All of those things are important that you know. So these are things that when we are working together with our clients, we want to make sure that you have a really clear picture about what is going to happen in your retirement as it relates to this money in, money out, and money to spend. Okay. So if you've worked with us at all, you have seen this, but I just want to bring it up again because I was doing some research one day and I was just looking for a candlestick chart on the stock market. That's what this is called, is a candlestick chart. And what I wanted to see was just the big history. Okay, I'm just looking for the history. I just wanted to see this is the S&P 500 since 1930. And when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, now this as it relates to retirement. All right, so there's a lot of green lines, a lot of up years, which are a blast, by the way. You look at you open your statement, or maybe you don't, or you get it on your app and it's up and you're like, you're just patting yourself on the back and you're feeling great. So green is also, it appears to me that green is normal, right? But red is also normal. Down years are also normal. Now, if we were to hone in on the last 20 years or 25 years, that would be, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but that would be the three, that would be 9/11, Enron, and the dot-com catastrophe. That was those 3 down years in the year 2000. Well, 3 back to back, and then 2008, and then you had COVID, and then the last one is where we are right now. So when we look at the market, if you're contributing into your savings, into your retirement savings, this really doesn't hurt you. Okay. It doesn't really hurt you because the money that's going in, everything you're buying is on sale. And that's fun. Okay. We all love a good sale, but you're still getting your paycheck. See, it doesn't directly impact you. It isn't very much fun to watch your retirement savings go down, but if you have time and it's, you've got 3 or 4 or 6 years before you're going to retire, you have time for that to recover and for it to come back. If you're retired or you're getting close to retirement, that's not the case, because now we're drawing income out of our accounts. All right. And when you take money out of an account and the market has dropped and you're also removing money, Everything you're taking, you're selling low. So when we think about this whole picture, I want to just do a little exercise with you. And I want to explain to you how, when you look at your statement and you see, that like last year, let's say you made 17%. That is called an average rate of return. I want to explain to you how that's calculated. Okay. So we're going to pretend that we have two portfolios. We have one portfolio number one, and this is how average rate of return is calculated. So in the first year, you had a banner year, 60% growth. In the second year, it was down, 40% loss. But the way average rate of return is figured out is you add the two together and you divide it by the number of years. Now, you see this in your 401k if you look at your investment options. It has 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year returns. This is exactly how they figure that out. They just add up the end of the year number, divide it by the number of years. So if you looked at this, you would say plus 60 minus 40 is a plus 20. You are up 20%. Okay. You divide that by 2 and you have a 10% average rate of return. 20% divided by 2 is 10%. Now let's look at portfolio number 2. You have an up 30 and a down 10. 30 minus 10 is 20. So you have a 20% return divided by 2, 10% average. So they're the same, right? Regardless of how you got there. Well, are they the same? So let's do this again. Let's put money with it this time. So let's say that you have $100,000 and you're up 60%. So now you have $160,000. All right. The next year you lose 40%. So now you're down 64,000. So what do you have left? You're 20%, you're up 20, but your actual dollar amount that you have inside of your portfolio is 96,000. 160 minus 64 equals 96. You divide that by 2, those percentages by 2, you still are showing a 10% average rate of return. However, the numbers are not that. Okay, the actual dollars. Let's look at the next portfolio. 100,000, you're up 30%. Okay. You minus 13,000, 10% of 130,000 is minus 13, which leaves you with 117,000. Your average rate of return in both portfolios is 10%. Now, I've actually had clients say to me, that makes sense because I've been contributing, but it seems like the contributions I'm making is the only gains I'm getting. Well, this is why, if that's the case. Okay. So when we're talking about average rate of return, we're talking about appreciation. Now, appreciation, let me give you an example of what I mean by that. I buy Apple at $100 a share and it grows to $120 a share. That $20 is the appreciation. That's what we were talking about here a minute ago. That's the average rate of return would be, in that case, it would be 20%. I bought it at 100. It's now worth 120. So I have 20% growth. That is called appreciation. Another place in life that we see this is with our homes. Let's say that you bought a house for $300,000 and you go to Zillow and look at it and holy cow, it's worth $550,000. There's $250,000 of appreciation. When you sell your house, you will be able to capture that appreciation. Appreciation is only captured through a sale. So if you're trying to take an income from appreciation, you have to sell the position. Okay. Now, yield is another piece of a portfolio. Yield is what is paid into the portfolio in the form of cash. Yield could be dividends. It could be interest. There's a variety of instruments that will produce yield inside of a portfolio. So when you're looking at yield, you're not selling any positions in order to get your income. You have yield that you can take. When you look at that, I want to show you a statement because I asked one of my clients, I said, how much yield do you have on your portfolio? And she goes, I don't know how to tell. And so I just grabbed a sample. Okay. So in this case, this client has 934,000 in this portfolio. If you go all the way over, see where at the top it says change in value. Well, the change in value means she grew 18,000. So she had appreciation of 18,000. If you see the income on this, that's the yield. That is how much that portfolio has generated in yield. And in this case, it was year to date. And I think this was through August of last year. So basically this portfolio, that would have been 9 months or 8 months, it's giving about $1,100 a month in yield. So when you're looking at taking an income from a portfolio, you have to ask yourself, well, if I'm taking an income, let's say I'm going to retire. Okay, I've got my portfolio, I have this money, I have an income need, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to withdraw from my portfolio. Well, the question is can you live on 10,000 a year? Is that enough? You're going to tell me no. Okay, no, that's not enough. So in order for you to have an income, you're going to have to sell positions. Do you see what I'm saying? You're going to have to sell positions. So this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize. They see this chunk of money, but they don't really understand the mechanics of what is going on. So when we build out a retirement plan for a client, what we're looking for is we want to develop enough protected income that it covers their paycheck that they are replacing. Why would we do that? Well, let's go back and think about what we talked about a minute ago. The market is not always up. There will not always be appreciation for you to sell. The last thing you want to do is start withdrawing from your portfolio when the market is down. So what are protected income sources? Well, Social Security is obviously one. A pension, if you have a pension from work, that's one. If you have VA benefits, okay, that's a guaranteed source. Now, these are not guaranteed, but they kind of are. If you sold a business, so let's say you sold a business for $1 million and you're getting payments on that business and it lasts for 10 years. And, if they stop making the payments, you get the business back. So you're thinking, okay, to me, that's it's not guaranteed, but kind of is. Or maybe alimony. Now, alimony is a court-ordered activity. So I always consider that to be reliable. All right. So this is what you may have. So let's say that you need $7,000 a month of income. That's really what you want to have coming in. And the only guaranteed source that you have, the only protected income source you have is Social Security. So it's like $3,000 a month. So that means your portfolio, what we looked at a second ago, has to produce $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. All right. So what are some of the probable income sources? Well, appreciation is probable because does the market grow over time? It does, typically. However, timing then is the important thing here, because if you happen to retire and in your first 5 years of retirement, we see a big downturn, your $900,000 portfolio goes down to 628. Let me tell you, you're going to feel differently about your retirement and about taking an income. You're going to start delaying trips. You're not going to replace the car you were going to. You're going to not put granite in the kitchen this year. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. It really does affect how you feel about your retirement. Probable income is appreciation. It could be gold. It could be dividends. It could be rentals. Why do I say rentals? Well, rentals are not always rented. Okay, you might go through a period where a person moves out and it's 2 months before somebody moves in. What happens to that income? They also might not be paid for. If they're not paid for, then you have a mortgage. There also might be damages and you have to replace carpet and you've got to take care of a snow issue that happened on the roof. The income that you were getting from the rental has to pay for that. So rentals are not, unless they're fully paid for and you have a long-term renter in there, I don't consider that to be, that's a probable income. Okay. So there's two different types of accounts that we like to combine with your other guaranteed sources of income. Okay. There's two of them. One is called a defined benefit annuity, and the other one is called a market shock absorber. Now, these are names that we have given these accounts because of how they perform. So this is a real client. Okay. So at 66, she will be taking her Social Security, and it will be $44,000. At 69, he's already getting his. It's $32,000. He's still working. So their income right now is $188,000 a year. Okay, with the two Social Securities. However, when he stops working, what then? Okay, so they would like to see about $12,000 a month of income. Now, like I told you, it's totally your deal. It's whatever you need this to be is what we need to figure out. All right. They wanted it to be defined. They did not want any issues with having to rely on any instrument, any market, any advisor. They don't want to put blind faith in anybody. They want to know positively for sure that they are going to have enough income to last through their entire retirement. So we used a defined benefit annuity. She put $281,000 of her IRA in there, and he put $600 of his. They're going to let it grow for a few years. So in these two, when he's 72 and 73, we'll be pulling money from their market accounts because they still have other money. But when he's 74, and her social will be 50,000, his will be 36. Her defined benefit annuity will be 30,000. His will be 61. Their guaranteed lifetime income is 179,000. All right. Now they still have money on the side that they can spend for travel or whatever. This is actually plenty of income for them. But the point is it's a known. They know what it is, and it's guaranteed, and it will be there the rest of their life. Okay. That's what this is. Some of my clients say, hey, that's what I want. I don't have a pension from work. I don't have VA benefits. I want something that I know will be there every month like clockwork. It's my paycheck now. All right. Here's another one. We call this one the market shock absorber. Okay. Because the way that this type of an annuity works, here is a deposit. The person puts $600,000 in it. You get the first growth of the market, but if the market goes down, you don't lose any money. So in this one, in 2007, the market was up 3.5%. So you get it all. In 2008, the market was down 38%. You don't go down at all. Now you can still take an income, but you're not selling low. In 2009, the market was up 26%. They got the first 9.5. Okay. The next year it was up 11%. They got the first 9.5. The next year it was down. They didn't lose money. The next year it was up. They got 9.5. The next year it was up. They got 9.5. Do you see what I'm saying? Why do we like using this? Because first of all, it's not a lifetime account, but so for some people, it's okay if it's not lifetime. They just want to know that if the market goes down, they have a place to get income that's not being impacted by a down market. In this case, this couple had other money. So they're using, in fact, I was just talking to them the other day, and he said, man, am I glad we have that shock absorber because we turned the income on from here. We're just taking a withdrawal from here instead of taking it out of their market accounts. Do you see what I'm saying? So what we're doing is we're protecting their cash flow. This is how we want to see our clients experience retirement. Everything right of the red line is the money that's going to stay in the market. We're going to let it grow. You can be aggressive if you want to be, because, hey, it's going to go up and down. It's not going to impact your income. Everything left of the red line and above the green line is taking care of your lifestyle. This is the money that is coming together for you in order for you to have to replace that monthly paycheck. In this case, this gal was going to retire this year. She wanted $84,000 of income. Her Social Security is going to be $45,000. She has a gap of $38,000 she needs to take care of. She does not want the market to determine that. She doesn't want to put blind faith in an advisor and just hope that they get it right. She wants to have something that's more defined, that she can actually sink her teeth into and know that she's good. Okay. So I say this every time I talk to a client. There's a big difference between hoping something will work out and knowing that something will work out. See, when you're working and you're getting your paycheck, you're not hoping every week that there's a deposit in your account or every other week. Okay, you know you're going to get paid as long as the company is solvent, right? And if the company goes under or you get laid off or you decide to leave, you're going to find another job that is reliable, that will give you the paycheck that you need. That's what we do, right? But when you go into retirement, you don't want to go into a phase of not knowing. You want to know that you're going to be good and that your income's going to be there, and you don't want to worry about it. And that is truthfully the way that I like to see clients approach retirement. It's seamless. You are working, you are getting this income. The net income is what we need to replace. So we're going to do that. We're going to figure out how to do that in such a way that you don't have to panic, worry, be glued to the television, and be concerned about what's happening in the world of money. The way that we do that is by just spending some time together. Okay. As if those of you that are clients, you already know this. Those of you that are not clients yet, or you haven't made a time to visit with us, I'd really encourage you to grab a time on our calendar. Our first meeting is called an Explore Thea. We're just going to talk. Okay, we're going to learn all about you. The second meeting, we're going to deep dive into your numbers. We're going to find out what you need to do in order for you to be happy. If you want to talk about this, okay, first of all, if we haven't been working together and if you don't have a plan yet, I want you need to get on our calendar. We have advisors all over the country, and everyone that we have on our team is just amazing. We all do the same thing. Okay. I want you to schedule time. If you are a client and you're thinking, I think I want to understand better how I'm set up. Maybe you have a market shock absorber, or maybe you have a defined benefit, or maybe you have some of both. If you want more clarification, get a hold of your advisor. Just shoot them an email and say, hey, let's talk again. I listened to this webinar today and it really opened up some thoughts. So I want you to feel comfortable doing that. But the point is do not go into retirement without some kind of a solid plan, replacing the paycheck that keeps you out of harm's way of the market. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you for joining us. It's always fun to be able to share time with you, to have an opportunity to get together, to talk about all things retirement. And thank you for being here.